Welcome to SML, School Morning Live. I'm your host, Sebastian Jeon, and I'll be discussing the topic of how can we as servant workers act to convince that men and women have equal social status in this world. And to achieve this goal, we will be using global connections with the global audience. So the approach we're trying to use here is that we will use connections with teachers, parents, and other known members of the community to connect with global leaders. And that can be global leaders anywhere from working with human resources to government officials, such as that in the UN, and people that work for social justice in the government, and many diverse areas. Now, before I get started on anything, I think I need to establish that what gender equality is. I think gender equality is a matter of social justice, which allows for equal access to rights, resources, and opportunities. But it also makes our societies richer and more secure. In other words, gender equality is a condition of development and a matter of sustainable peace and security for the social good, for the equality of the society. Now, I want to make a claim that men and women actually have equal social status, and that your gender orientation does not determine what kind of position or status you end up having in society. Let me give you some statistics. First of all, the public's perception is that we live in a male-dominated patriarchal society and that women have a lesser voice in society. But let me give you some statistics to, arouse you in other aspects and other strata of society. So, 93% of inmates that go to prison are male, and only 7% are female. 70% of people who end up in the streets are men, while only 30% are women. 85% of men are the ones that are most victims of violent crime, while only 15% are women. And continuing on from this logic, I could say that most people who commit suicide are men, most people who die in wars are men, people who do worse in school are men. So I want to ask you a few questions. Does this really prove that men are superior to women? And I know you guys, you could be thinking that I'm just taking advantage of those few aspects of society, that a few strata of society, to make an overarching conclusion. But no, there are so many different aspects and elements that just show the differences between a male and a female, but not necessarily a difference in how they're treated or how their social status is determined. Okay, so I don't want to ignore the past views, the historical context. It is true that women were favored over men in the past. As a matter of fact, in 1993, 62% of people favored men over women, and only 23% were treated equally. So, in this context, yes, in the workforce, men were favored more than women in terms of there was a wage gap. There were things like gender discrimination, the different foods they got to eat, the different tasks they were given to do. And yeah, it was sort of unfair. But in terms of 2013, and this is actually a research by source based on Gallup, CNN, and USA Today. So in 2013, it shows that 45% of males are favored over females, and actually 40% believe that men and women are treated equally in the workforce. So clearly, based on this logic, I can't say for sure that gender inequality doesn't exist, but quite clearly, at least there is more fairness to gender now. But I still understand that there is some arguments made against gender equality, and that is to say that women are treated with less advantage than men are treated with. But my argument is that there is some kind of disconnect between public perceptions of how women are treated versus the actual experience people have in their workplace. As a matter of fact, only a very few adults say that gender gaps exist where they work. 73% of men and 75% of women say that men and women are paid about the same for doing the same job. And the rest inequality, they may exist from things like the different types of occupations, the different work they're required to do. But regardless, the majority believe that men and women are paid the same for the same job they do. And according to the public, the most compelling explanation for this wage gap is that men and women make different life choices about how to balance work and family. Women generally choose to work more at home, things like taking care of the baby, paternal leave, doing groceries, and just, living more of a family-oriented life. While men generally provide for the family, they're out there working in society, and there's even economic data that confirms that women work fewer hours per week on average than men work. Also, people who believe that there exists a gauge gap between a male and a woman and a female is most likely to be a woman who does not have a college degree. And that is because women without a college degree consequently have less opportunities in the workforce, and they're less likely to get a better job than women with a college degree. And that's just how life works. That's just how society works, because people with college degrees are more likely to succeed, at least in the general perspective, because it's showing a certified proof that those people can work well and have experience. So with this logic, I can conclude that the women who believe that a wage gap exists is only saying that because they have different experiences than other people with college degrees, because obviously people with college degrees will have an easier time getting into a job, getting into a workforce than people without college degrees. And I also think another part we need to consider is the broad social context. Whether in this certain field, do more men work than women, or do males do more technical jobs than women in a certain field? Let's take Apple for example. It is statistically true that men have more experience than women in fields like computer science, in fields like engineering, because males are generally more interested in that field, because males are generally more likely to pursue a job in engineering, in physical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science, because that's what they like doing, and that's what they've been educated to do for the general part. And I think considering all these aspects, I think gender equality is for certain something that exists, and although there are facets of society, there are certain elements that show that maybe there's a gender inequality between a male and a female. We could also say the exact same thing the other way around, that actually male have more of a disadvantage in certain fields than women do, and women have a certain disadvantage than males in other fields. So that is not to say that there exists gender inequality, but it's just a social structure, how certain people just prefer other fields than other people. It's a difference in how they work. It's a difference in what ideologies they have grown up with. It's a difference in the type of community in which they live. And yeah, by this I could conclude that male and female have equal social status. That it's not a matter of a difference in opportunity. It's only a matter of a difference in outcome. It's not a matter of a difference of rights or resources. It's a matter of people knowing how to take advantage of certain opportunities, and other people not knowing how to take advantage of certain opportunities. And I think in totality, this type of gender equality allows for a community, for a world of development where we can truly strive for sustainable peace and security. And because of such differences in the choices they make according to the situation, I think the way the world develops, this society of competition, it's the greatest gift that humanity has received, that men and women both are given the same opportunities, just different social contexts in which they grow up, but they're given the same opportunity under the same job to truly show that the better person will be earning more money, that the better person will have faster promotions. And I think that's just how it works. That's social justice, because male and female have equal rights. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and we'll come back in part 2, where we'll interview someone from Samsung who works as the Senior Vice President of the Samsung Human Resource Department, and we'll come back later. Hello, we're here back for part 2, where I'll be interviewing a Senior Vice President of Samsung who's been working in the Human Resource Department for the past 26 years. It is an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this experience, and I'm looking forward to interpreting his results and bringing some phenomenal conclusions. I'll come back after the interview. Hello, nice to meet you. How long have you been working in the Human Resource Department?
저는 삼성 휴먼 리소스 디파트먼트에서 26년을 일을 했습니다.
And what do you look for in drafting your employees?
뽑을 때 전공, 경험, 그다음에 일에 대한 그 태도, 열정, 창의적 마인드 이런 거를 보고 뽑습니다.
Okay. In your workforce, what is the ratio of male to female workers?
통상 남녀 비율은 70대 30% 정도 됩니다.
What do you think is the reason for that?
통상 여성들의 그 직장에서의 생활이 이렇게 녹록치 않기 때문에, 여유치 않기 때문에 그 여성들이 회사에 취업해서 일하는 게 생각보다 쉽진 않습니다.
Is it true that more male workers have more interest in electrical manufacturing? That's why there's maybe a gap between more male workers?
네, 그렇습니다. 여성분들이 이 전자전기 엔지니어링 쪽 분야에서 전공을 많이 공부하지 않았기 때문에 상대적으로 제조업 기반 전자 회사에 입사하는 것이 생각보다는 많지 않은 것 같습니다.
I heard there's around a 7-3 managerial position in favor of men. Why do you think that's the case? Do you think it maybe has anything to do with paternity leaves or something to do with marriage and things like that?
전반적으로 입사해서 일을 하면서 결혼도 해야 되고 또 육아 문제도 있겠고 그 다음에 임신을 하면 또 휴가를 내야 되기 때문에 상대적으로 여성들이 그 해당 매니저 포지션에 가는 데는 상당한 시간과 노력과 이런 것들이 필요합니다.
Okay, so that's why there's a difference in males and females. Do you spot any differences between how a male worker and a female worker work? For example, some of their characteristics?
저는 그렇게 생각하지 않습니다. 남녀 모두 개인의 역량에 따라서 일을 하고 또 그에 따라서 성과를 만들고 그걸 통해 성장하기 때문에 다른 특별한 차이점이 있다고 보지는 않습니다.
Do you think that certain male workers are more adventurous, challenging, and take more risks? And what do you think about women?
저는 여자도 동일하게 다르다고 생각합니다. 여자라고 해서 새로운 일에 도전하고 뭐 그다음에 창의적으로 일하는 것을 꺼려하거나 두려워하거나 그렇지 않다고 봅니다.
Is there any difference in the speed of promotion between male and female? Does one certain gender get promoted faster if they do the same work and have the same experience?
역량과 성과와 그다음에 그에 맞는 역할을 할 수 있는 잠재력을 보기 때문에 다른 뭐 때문에 차별이 있다고 보진 않습니다.
Okay, so we can conclude that generally the only differences in positions is due to men working longer hours than women. Do you think that's true? Do you think generally in breaks male workers work more than female workers?
뭐 통상적으로 여성분들이 그런 여러 가지 그 육아 문제, 가정 문제 등등이 있기 때문에 남성들보다 직장 생활을 오래 하는 것은 좀 상대적으로 좀 어렵지 않나 이렇게 생각이 됩니다.
So that's maybe one of the reasons why there are more males with higher positions than women.
예, 그렇습니다.
Do you agree that in the past there may have been discrimination between male and female workers?
뭐 상황에 따라 틀리긴 하는데 일본 그럴 수도 있었다고 보긴 합니다. 그러나 그거는 과거에 그런 그 틀에 박힌 생각과 고정관념 때문에 그런 거고 지금은 전혀 그런 부분은 없다고 생각합니다.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Hello and welcome back. I've done the interview. We could see that he's worked in the human resource department for 26 years. And when he selects his employees, he looks for experience, confidence, creativity, respect, professionalism, and passion. So going on to the idea of gender equality, he believes that males and females receive the same treatment and same pay if the same kind of service is given from each employee. He does mention that the male to female ratio in the workforce is a 6-4 ratio in favor of men. However, that's justified by the fact that more men pursue electrical manufacturing or majors related to that, computer science. In college, therefore, Samsung's more interested in drafting those kind of employees as they are an electrical manufacturing company. Now, he also mentions that males and female workers earn exactly the same money if given the same position or job status. However, the managerial position is a 7-3 in favor of men. That's also justified by the fact that women have things like paternity leave, pregnancy, and more family responsibilities, and men are more dedicated to working throughout their lives and in dedicating more time to their work as they grow older. And therefore, that's justified by the fact that, men just generally spend more time working than women do. He does mention that some men have different characteristics, such as they're more challenging and adventurous and taking more risks, while female workers are generally safer, doing more specific duties, going in depth in their given jobs. And so the natural law is that as women grow older, they have more responsibility of a family and not as committed to working as men are. However, the speed in terms of promotion, it has nothing to do with gender, but everything to do with what kind of results are produced, what kind of things the department is succeeding at, how much more effort, how many more hours are the workers staying after work. And although he does state that in the past there may have been gender discrimination in which women were socially weaker, I mean, that's just a historical fact. Women did do the same job as men, however got paid less. But that's just a long gone history, that's a distorted history. Now, he confidently claims that in the present and in the future there will be no kind of gender discrimination, that
both genders will be paid according to what kind of work they do, and that kind of long gone history is never to be brought up in modern society because that's against the law and that's against the ethics of Samsung Electronics as a company. So yeah, that was the analysis of the interview, and thank you very much for tuning in.